So this is the part A of the KhoodeelaarTV television channel being broadcast at 7:50 hours GMT on Friday, 24th of March 2023. We didn't broadcast any edition on Thursday, 23rd of March 2023 due to commitments that we had to investigate some of the evidence, some of the behavior across East London, which we shall be sharing with viewers in due course. This is just to say that today's front page on The Guardian newspaper in London, today's front page is relevant. It says that the councils in England spent £500 million on beds in worst council homes. Now, this is a paradox because councils knowingly and corruptly funding an industry that is completely corrupt and crooked and is actually a risk to the users' safety. Who are the users? The people who are put as residents in the care home, so-called. Most of them are vulnerable people, lacking what is called capacity. That is to say, they cannot conduct their intellectual and other affairs independently of help. And when they depend for help on others while they are in care homes, those others are most likely to be callous, careless, uncaring, and untrained, and not under any supervision, any auditing, any examination, any accountability whatsoever. This report on The Guardian today, Friday, the 24th of March, 2023, is the tip of the iceberg. Quite literally, billions of pounds are paid to these mainly rogue operators that are running rogue businesses under the seductive, almost kind of reliable care homes. A significant number of the care homes industry are founded and controlled by people from India. It is absolutely unthinkable that these people would have been able to open a similar rough businesses in India itself, where the standard of care and audit is far lower than is supposed to be the case in the UK. There is a rare report. This is the piece on The Guardian, which is linked to the rare report done by the CQC, Care Quality Commission, which on its records is itself corrupt, dishonest, dysfunctional. And it's not just the care homes. The local councils operate an intermediary kind of series of industries or industrial care providers, again, which costs the councils huge sums of money at practically no accountability being made or demanded of the providers. So this is just one of the tip of the icebergs, and we have been talking about this for as long as our movement has been in existence. Local councils in England are corrupt, and anything that the local council funds externally has to be treated at first as being linked with corruption as opposed to care. So we shall be updating in detail in due course. This is news that is being presented by the Guardian as news, but to us it is not news because it has been going on for too long. One of the reasons why basic democratic audit must be established about the behavior of local councils, regional assemblies, and central government is this: that if left to their devices, to their own devices, these agencies would abuse. The disclosures in the WhatsApp messages that originated from Matt Hancock, who was Secretary of State, the UK's Health Secretary, and others, again confirm the pervasive hold that corruption has in the actual spending of public money. Billions and billions and billions of public money, UK people's money, has been stolen, robbed, and looted with the collusion of the Central Government Department for Health, so-called, which has actually been acting as an agency itself when it comes to the money, or private contractors whose ideology and narrative and agenda is very hostile to the idea of a national health service at the point of need. It has been the point of greed that the National Health Service ideology has been turned into. And there is no democratic audit of the government department. What actually is supposed to be the select committee on departmental select committee allegedly set up by the members of parliament is a joke. The very rare exception, for whatever reason, the very rare exception took place on Wednesday, last Wednesday, that is 2 days ago, with the public, is it Public Accounts Committee or Privileges Committee? I think it's the Privileges Committee, chaired by Harriet Harman, and Boris Johnson appeared before it. And the reason why I'm calling it rare is because, for a start, the background, the evidential, factual background that preceded this appearance by Boris Johnson was rare, because the post that Boris Johnson held and the hearing and the investigation and the inquiry by the Privileges Committee is about that time. And that post and Johnson's abuse of that post is a rare, because most of the select committees, departmental select committees in the UK, don't go into investigating the Prime Minister's behavior. And this is the rarity. And what happened with the Fleet Street newspapers on Thursday is that the Daily Mail, for example, front page on Thursday, byline to Sarah Vanity. And Sarah Vanity is the person being mentioned in the context of Brexit by a Twitter poster called Marina Parkis. Sarah Vine should follow Steve Baker and both get in the bin. So Sarah Vine said on the Daily Mail on 28th of February 2023, Sarah Vine, Brexit cost me my dearest friendships and my marriage. I Sunak succeeds as individuals and as a nation, we can put this civil war behind us. Well, the civil war was created by the likes of Sarah Banerjee, who is a complete criminal liar. And she attacked those who wanted to investigate Boris Johnson's lying. And she attacked them before the hearing or the appearance of Johnson on Wednesday, and she attacked them on Thursday, the day after he appeared. Now, the Daily Mail front page splashes absolutely very intensely typographically presented, heavily typographically presented headline front page, where on the one hand there was a picture of the chair of the session, Privileges Committee, Harriet Harman, and on the other was, of course, the perennial liar. But they don't call him perennial liar. They, in fact, still, after that appearance, they're still venerating this congenital liar, the evilness called Boris Johnson. And as so many people doing the posts on their Twitter accounts have pointed out, immediately as the hearing took place, the facial expressions captured by the camera, because this was a live kind of hearing, facial expressions on David Penick gave the whole thing away, because nobody can deny that those facial expressions put on by David Penick were anything but expressions of total incredulity, disbelief, and outrage at the stupidity, dishonesty, and brazenness of the liar Boris Johnson. Why is that important? Because Penick, as we have condemned him in advance of the hearing, is Boris Johnson's hired licensed law trader. I don't think that people would have missed the distance that Boris Johnson kept between himself and David Penick as he took his seat in front of where in front of the row where David Penick was sitting, which tells a story of its own, because the preparation prior to the hearing involving Johnson and David Penick meeting so many times and communicating and interacting, the preparation must have been very, very unproductive, very, very hostile. Although nobody has yet published anything as to the relationship between Penick and Johnson, I think it's only a matter of time before this is published, and it will be quite clear that Penick advised Johnson one way and Johnson rejected Penick's advice. Now, Johnson's dishonest, corrupt DNA, and he is being recognized as the most dishonest individual politician in this country, was ignored by the media. Ignored by the media for 35 years, let's say. Because the media knew Johnson to be a liar from the start. But the media indulged him and continued to tell lies, bring serious disrepute to the country as a whole. Do the public discourse. Anyone watching the live broadcast? I watched the live broadcast on the Sky channel, and I think our edition onwards carried most of the sound. Anyone watching and looking at the body language, Boris Johnson's body language, and the vocal kind of content of his vocal pattern, let's say, and the style and the delivery, would have noticed that Boris Johnson again comes across as a totally dishonest, disrespectful, and disgraceful individual who has no connection with the reality. And especially the style, he talks in an accent with a way that is dismissive of the whole environment, the whole surroundings. Now, that is not something that he does only occasionally. That's how he does talk. And the reason he can do that is because most of the media, the delivery of reports about him, most of the media intentionally leave out these very fundamental signs of a crook in action. Nobody who was actually allowed to be in the post of Prime Minister of the United Kingdom should ever be allowed to behave in that way. Because anyone who occupies that post of Prime Minister has got the serious responsibility that affects the lives of millions of people, the safety and security of millions of people. Which is why the question as to whether he lied to Parliament is so important. Because the be impeccable. But none of these qualities can be found in Boris Johnson's behavior. And when it became clear, very early on, before he was allowed to harass Theresa May out of office, this was very clear. And the media allowed him, indulged him. And he was lying about Brexit. He was lying about everything else. Two of the most kind of high profile names among his former mistresses are the names of Jennifer Arcuri, the American woman, and the woman who worked in the Spectator when Boris Johnson was given the post of editor of the Spectator magazine. Both of them have publicly condemned Johnson as dishonest, unreliable, etc., etc. And the media mentioned these, but not with a moral tone that he is unfit for high office. When he and blamed being too demanding, too complaining, he was forced to go to Liverpool by Michael Howard, who was the opposition Conservative Party leader at the time. And Boris Johnson was in Michael Heseltine's cabinet. And Boris Johnson went to Liverpool and he was almost mocking the fact that he was there. He, what they call in colloquial English, taking the piss. He was joking at the expense of Michael Howard's sending him there to apologize to the people of Merseyside. And he used the expression in an insulting way, I'm a squashed lemon. Now, anything that Johnson has done in public, in seriously public social term, societal terms, in the context of democracy, in the context of the Constitution, in the context of the organs of the state and separation of powers, etc. He has defied the rules. He has shown nothing but contempt for the rules. So this line that Boris Johnson was being tried in a kangaroo court for parties that took place which shouldn't have been subjected to the inquiry is a lying line, because Boris Johnson has not just broken these party rules about the pandemic. Boris Johnson has always been capricious and callous and brazen and contemptuous of the rules that apply to all the other people. So it will be very interesting to see what follow-up questions the Privileges Committee have for Boris Johnson to actually answer truthfully. Because Harriet Harman's letter or statement, well, letter about the Privileges Committee hearing very clearly confirms that this hearing would not be the end of the inquiry. Let's check the actual things that she said. And so this is the letter that Harriet wrote, which has been published, but it says in confidence. And this is dated the 22nd of March 2023. Privileges matter referred on 21 April 2022. Dear Boris, I am replying to the letter from your solicitors, Peters and Peters, delivered to us at 9:42 a.m. this morning. The committee received the interview records taken in the Sue Gray investigation in confidence and subject to undertakings given to the government not to make that public. And I mean, let's get to the main 3 paragraphs. The committee takes its obligations of confidentiality and to junior civil servants very seriously. You only asked to rely on material that is not evidence at 3:21 p.m. on Monday this week, less than 48 hours before the evidence session. This inquiry does not finish with today's evidence session. You are entitled to obtain witness statements, which we will consider. You have all the material in the master bundle, and you can refer the committee to that without prejudicing confidentiality. I do hope that this late demand is not being used as a distraction from the work of the committee. The remedy is in your hands. Now, I shall read the other paragraph that I actually left out. The committee decided not to rely on that material, that is Sugre investigation, because it is not evidence. And the civil servants had not had a chance to verify the material, as you know. The interview notes are not transcripts and were not shown to those who were interviewed. We gave them that chance and rely only on the evidence statements verified by statements of truth. Now, this phrase, statement of truth, is very important in formal legal proceedings. When evidence is submitted or adduced, as they say, or added to a particular claim or counterclaim in the proceedings in the court system in the United Kingdom, the evidence has to be verified and labeled as covered by statement of truth so that perjury and lying are ruled out. So, what Harriet Harman is saying, that you have had disclosure of all that material for more than 2 weeks. And this is the accusation that Bernard Jenkins actually effectively echoed during the hearing on the 22nd of March 2023. Harriet Harman continues her letter to Johnson. You could have asked for any of this material to be verified by the witnesses concerned. You have not done that, and you have not asked the committee to do that. Now, this is the most serious kind of proof, assertion by the committee of total disgust at the incompetence of Boris Johnson and stupidity. Now, this must have been an occurrence that took place since David Penick was instructed, let's say, to be the lead barrister for Johnson. And if he was shown about this, he would have asked Boris Johnson to do what Harriet Harman is accusing Johnson of not having done. It is quite clear that David Penick would have said, you could have asked for any of this material to be verified. Penick would have asked him to seek verification of the material that he had access to. And Harriet Harman is saying that you have not done that, and you have not asked the committee to do that. Now, that is next to the question very firmly put by Bernard Jenkins. You should have taken a proper advice, and you didn't. Why didn't you take proper advice? Now, let's go back to the kind of mythology created about Boris Johnson being a scholar. This criminal has been overly promoted as a classics scholar. And this has been done obviously with his instigation by the media to suggest that he is intellectually superior to most people. Well, if that is fact, then I will not want to kind of question that fact if it is fact. But the facts of his behavior over the last 35 years, let's say, contradict that kind of suggestion, that kind of propaganda line. And this appearance by Johnson before the Privileges Committee concluded, filled up any gap that might have existed about whether he was a really superior intellect or not. He comes across as a buffoon. And as the Daily Star put Johnson on its front page, Johnson is saying that I lied, but I didn't mean to, or something like that. Johnson said, I lied, but I'm a liar. I'm not a liar, but I am a moron or something. Let's check the actual front page of the Daily Star, which is absolutely pertinent. Yeah, the Daily Star said in a in a in a graphic that showed Johnson playing the role of a woman actor called Eve Pollard. Yeah, but no, but yeah, but no, but yeah, but no, but yeah. And the second one, he says, I'm not a liar, I'm just a moron. Again, the Pinocchio character. So the yeah, but no, so on the inside page, the star is saying ex Prime Minister blames others over lockdown bashes scandal. Bashes meaning parties. And the main heading is when is a party not a party? And they got a picture of Donald Trump saying, put me in cuffs. And Johnson pictured at the party where there are drinks and drinks on the tables in front of him. And then he's swearing the oath. And the oath is normally, I swear, it is only truth, nothing but the truth. But his bubble to the picture of Johnson in the Daily Star is saying, I swear, it's nothing like the truth. So Boris Johnson is completely taken apart as a complete moron. And just to get to the idea of the Pinocchio, let's see what the Pinocchio entry is saying. It's an Italian fictional character and the protagonist of the children's novel The Adventures of Pinocchio, 1883, by Italian writer Carlo Collodi of Florence, Tuscany. Pinocchio was carved by a wood carver named Geppetto in a Tuscan village. He is created as a wooden puppet, but he dreams of becoming a real boy. He is known for his long nose, which grows when he lies. So the Daily Star, which otherwise is not a credible newspaper, but Daily Star has excelled itself as the only Fleet Street tabloid during the last 6 months of the Tory leadership turmoil. First, it effectively, successfully mocked Liz Truss as the lettuce. And now it has done the thing with Johnson, portraying him as Pinocchio, whose long nose gets longer when he lies. Pinocchio is a cultural icon and one of the most reimagined characters in children's literature. His story has been adapted into many other media, notably the 1940 Disney film Pinocchio. Collodi often used the Italian Tuscan dialect in his book. The name Pinocchio is possibly derived from the rare Tuscan form Pinocchio, pine nut, or constructed from pino, pine tree, pine wood, and occhio is the eye. So when Boris Johnson has been reduced to Pinocchio, whose nose grows longer when it lies, that's it. I mean, that actually disposes of all the myths that have been created around him as the scholar, as the superior intellect, etc., etc. As if all of that were not bad enough for Johnson. One Twitter poster in the last 24 hours has reposted a letter, 1982 letter written to Stanley Johnson, Boris Johnson's father, by Boris Johnson's tutor at Eton College, also known as Eton School in Berkshire. Let's see where the Eton master, Michael Martin, is it Michael Martin? Let's see where this is. So this is Boris Johnson's Eton Classics Master. This is the post previously in the Daily Mail, dated the 13th of January 2022. It's Martin Hammond. Okay. This is the Daily Mail piece that precedes the tweet I'm talking about. We'll come to that later, but this is the item in the Daily Mail that attributes to Martin Hammond. Boris seems affronted. That was 1982, remember. So 1982, 92 is 10 years, 2002 is 20 years, 2012 is 30 years, and this is 41 years ago. Boris Johnson was a schoolboy at Eton. So, to quote Martin Hammond, Boris seems affronted when criticized for what amounts to a gross failure of responsibility. Now, 41 years ago, his classics master, Martin Hammond, told Johnson's father that Johnson was irresponsible, gross. He grossly failed responsibility. So, letter goes viral from Prime Minister's Eton Classics master as it re-emerges, despairing about his 17-year-old pupil's effortless superiority. The scathing report was sent from Martin Hammond to Stanley Johnson in 1982. It rapped Boris for thinking he should be free of the obligations that bind others. I mean, the most obvious conclusion would be that he's a lunatic, complete and utter lunatic. How has the lunatic, known with so many examples of lunacy, been allowed to become prime minister and beyond? The classic schoolmaster also blasted him for being affronted when criticized. It comes as prime minister's future hangs on a knife edge of a number 10 garden lockdown parties. Remember that parties? So it's written by James Gant for Daily Mail, for Mail Online, published at 1328 on the 13th of January 2022 and updated at 12:45 on 14th of January 2022. A letter written by Boris Johnson's classics master when he was at Eton has resurfaced, saying he believes it is churlish of us, including Martin Hammond, not to regard him as an exception. The report from Martin Hammond to Stanley Johnson in 1982 rapped the 17-year-old for thinking he should be free of the network of obligation that binds everyone. The schoolmaster also slammed Johnson for being affronted when criticized for what amounts to a gross failure of responsibility. It comes as the Prime Minister's future hangs on a knife edge. As ministers pleaded with Tories MPs to wait for a probe into number 10 parties before calling for him to quit. Mr. Johnson yesterday apologized for attending a brief Bring Your Own Booze party in the Downing Street Garden in May 2020 during the first coronavirus lockdown. But he insisted he believed it was a work event and could technically have been within the rules. Here is he being a Pinocchio again. An extract from Mr. Hammond's letter, which has gone viral on social media, was obtained by the author Andrew Gimson, who says he got Mr. Hammond's permission to reproduce it as well as the green light from Stanley and Boris. The report from Martin Hammond to Stanley Johnson in 1982 wrapped the 17-year-old pictured when he was 15 at Eton for thinking he should be free of the network of obligation that binds others, that binds everyone. Now, this is the full account that has been quoted. Boris really has adopted a disgracefully cavalier attitude to his classical studies. It's a question of priorities, which most of his colleagues have no difficulty in sorting out. Boris sometimes seems affronted when criticized for what amounts to a gross failure of responsibility, and is surprised at the same time that he was not appointed captain of the school for the next half. I think he honestly believes that it is childish of us not to regard him as an exception, one who should be free of the network of obligation which binds everyone else. Martin Hammond, master in college, Eton, letter to Stanley Johnson, 10th of April 1982. And ex Eton school head, Tony Little has said Boris is giving the respected school a bad name. This is absolutely the opposite of the scholarship and superior intellect that Boris Johnson has been promoting about himself. He's a complete and utter liar. And the Metropolitan Police behaved corruptly as well, according to the Daily Mail, which says that the Metropolitan Police still refuses to probe, that is, investigate Partygate, bash, that is, party, after Boris Johnson admitted he was there for 25 minutes, but implicitly believed it was a work event in carefully worded apology. Now, that is a lunatic talking. So, there is a whole lot of information everywhere about Boris Johnson being a genetic congenital liar. So, how was he allowed to even contest for being leader of the Conservatives, which automatically leads to being the next prime minister if this happens during the term of a Conservative prime minister? We shall be talking about all of these in due course more extensively. Now, there is a new kind of line that is being opened about the British media coverage concerning Shamima Begum. Now, they have belatedly, quote, found Sharmina Begum. And what they're doing is parading Sharmina Begum's image as a critic of her allegedly former friend Shamima Begum. So this line is something new. It has not been seen or read or heard before until now. So it seems that the British government or the British state is hyperactively trying to find any kind of line that can be used to just justify Sajid Javid's taking away the British by birth citizenship from Shamima Begum. This is my reading. Because for the entire period of the time since February 2015 up to now, when 15 January 2015 is when Shamima and two of our friends were first reported by the mainstream media as having gone to Syria. That is when we came to know about her and their existence and their activities. There has been no joint account, that is to say, joint reporting, the media coverage of Shamima Begum and her two friends and Sharmina Begum. So this is 7 years or so later. So this is something that is being kind of created and confected in order to deal with the slightly slow but certain appearance of opinion from British establishment type figures, all arguing that Shamima Begum should be allowed to return to the UK and be prosecuted. That is what they are saying. But this is something that is at odds with the stooge role by the Supreme Court, which rubber stamped Sajid Javid, and the other court, that is the so called commission, immigration commission, special immigration tribunal or something, which is in effect deferred to the Supreme Court, to the Home Secretary. Now, this increasing kind of murmur by white people, mainly British white establishment people, that suggests that Shamima Begum has been unfairly treated and has been denied natural justice and all the rest of it, is significant to the Home Secretary, the Home Office, and the UK state, because these are the very people who actually keep the state in an image of acceptability by the ordinary majority people. And there has been no direct response from the state Home Office or the Prime Minister or the government. But this is the indirect thing, that is the use of a kind of osma provocateur, let's say, that they are painting Sharmina Begum as someone just like Shamima Begum, who is now distancing herself ideologically from Shamima Begum and are calling Shamima Begum in the strongest condemnatory way a non-believer. And Sharmina Begum, according to this particular propaganda line that has been created by the UK state, retailed by the BBC and Joshua Baker, is to the effect that Shamima Begum is a sponger, that she is taking benefit and she is benefiting from the terrorism money. Now, quite what the details are of that particular line being attributed to Sharmina Begum has not yet been detailed, but that is what the line is. Let's see if we can find the line. The line is found, I think, in the BBC. Let's find it. So this is the piece that is bylined to Josh Baker and an African or Arabic sounding name, Sarah Obaidat. That Obaidat is definitely an Arabic derived name, which means that she must have been their source or their spy who must have made direct contact with Sharmina, more direct than Josh Baker and Joe Kent. So there are three names there to the piece that is said to have been posted online by the BBC a day ago. These names are Josh Baker, Sarah Obaidat, and Joe Kent. And the first paragraph reads, Shamima Begum's best friend. Now, they never mentioned Sharmina as even her friend. What they mentioned was that she was an acquaintance who they knew well. But best friend is a phrase which is very strong, which is intended to create the most effective propaganda line against Shamima Begum and in favor of the credibility of Sharmina Begum that has been denied, deprived all credibility by the BBC and the British media until now. So they're playing one alleged Muslim terrorist against another alleged Muslim terrorist, both from Tower Hamlets. And then it says Sharmina Begum, no relation, dismissed her former friend. Now she becomes former friend, not former best friend. They've dropped the best from that paragraph. Who wants to return to the UK for living off benefits. Because Shamima Begum, according to this version of the propaganda piece confected by the UK security propagandists, to make her look the worst, because not only is she a suspect Islamic terrorist, but she's even doing worse, living off benefits, as she's a sponger. Now, they can say that, but you see, the objective definition of the due process warrants that they have to have actual, real, material evidence to show that Shamima Begum has committed offense so serious that her British nationality she obtained by being born in Britain was thought necessary to be removed from her. And even after removing her nationality over the last 4 calendar years, they have yet to find any evidence that she has committed a crime. That is the whole point. And it goes on. And they are now saying that Sharmina has been fundraising for the Islamic State. So, what we shall be doing is bringing an end to this particular edition, part A of the KhoodeelaarTV television channel, being broadcast on the internet only under the banner of Baby Angel Geronimo Editions. Baby Angel Geronimo is the most beloved Baby Angel Geronimo in the whole world, and we love him and we derive daily evidential, spiritual, ethical, moral inspiration from his witnessing the inevitable but currently ongoing degeneration of the evilness called Boris Johnson and his